I
Hey,
almost think we.
everybody. Oh, what's up? Jason's interrupting at the beginning already. That's fine. I normally talk way too much anyway. You guys are on podcast number 37 of the Going Ballistic podcast. I'm glad to have you guys here. Looks like we already have people joining the live chat on YouTube. I appreciate you guys joining in. And Jason, man, I appreciate you being here. You are always here on time, ready to go. I'm the one that has to cancel sometimes. I appreciate it, man. How you doing?
Good, good. Just getting through the holiday rushes of, getting everything done. Of course, everybody wants countertops right before Thanksgiving and Christmas and commercial jobs, wanting to wrap up stuff before the end of the year. So always a busy time.
Well, it's a good time though, right?
It's a crazy time. It's good to be busy, but as you well know, sometimes being too busy just drags you down.
Got to take time for family. You're good about that, though. You're good about that. You got to balance out. I'm still trying to find that balance right now. I think I'm 3 months officially into being like just an entrepreneur, and I love it. But it's actually the work-life balance is even harder now because I'm driving to do other things. But I love it. The support you guys are giving is awesome. Love it, love it, love it. So you got some new toys, man. You're already doing holiday shopping.
I am
Share with
actually.
us what you got.
Well, so my Black Friday sale list that I'm looking for, of course, is going to be instead of TVs this year, it's going to be lower parts kits, triggers, barrels. So as we talked about before, I'm looking to do a test run in Cerakote, right? So I've been watching videos, reading about how to do it,
How much does that
and
really take on like equipment on your end?
not much because I've already got the airbrush. I had to order a
Mhm.
glass cylinder to mix it with. I got a Harbor Freight little sandblaster to sandblast it with. So
How big is that? Is that like actual like toolbox size or bigger or what is it?
no, it's a little handgun that's got a probably an 8 ounce hopper on top. Something
Well,
small
where's all the media going to go?
on the ground in the field next to me.
The little boxes can't be that expensive, can they? Like, I know they sell small ones, so you can at least recover the media.
Yeah, no, I'm sure I can build a quick box out of some plywood and put a little glass lens on it, and that's probably what I'll end up doing for this little test run.
Right.
But yeah, the Cerakote's on its way. Um,
That's awesome.
the media is on its way, and then of course today I bought completely stripped upper lower and rail that I need to sandblast and get ready
Can
to.
you hold them up for at least the people following along on YouTube right now to be able to see what's going on? What you
Absolutely, I
got?
can hold them up. So this is the bare aluminum upper and lower that I got today.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have to sandblast it and Cerakote it and bake it. And of course, everybody's making fun of me because I want to um, try to do a two-color Cerakote, which is, I guess, hard to do. And then this is the Odin rail that I got today that was stripped down. So the boys at Lake Tactical hooked me up today.
That's awesome. I really like the upper and lower set. That rail's not my style, but it's not my guns. That's okay.
For what it is and what I'm testing, it's a challenging rail because it's not in two pieces. So to try to get the inside of that thing
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
is going to
Mhm.
be a good challenge for me, and just to see how it goes.
You know, I would consider just taking high temp black spray paint, like the spray paint they sell for barbecue grills. I would probably, if
Right?
it was me, which it's not, I would probably spray the inside of it with the spray paint can and just go crazy on it. And then when you sandblast it, just sandblast the outside and try to leave the inside alone. Like put a cardboard tube in there after it's dry or something. I don't know. Because if it's black on the inside, who cares? Unless you want it full color all the way around.
Yeah, I'm gonna do inside, outside. Haven't decided whether I'm gonna actually do the barrel or not yet when I get the barrel. But I got Snakebite saying he couldn't see it, so I'll try this again. Um, so that's the upper right there from Lake Tactical. And then, of course, this is their lower, which has the built-in finger guard and everything already in it. Hopefully you got to see it that go around. Maybe, maybe
Yeah,
not.
those are cool. Those nice cuts to it. So what barrel are you using in there? Are you going to be sourcing a finished barrel? Where are you getting your barrel from?
So I've been shopping around. I haven't committed to one yet. Lake Tactical actually has one. at a really good price. And I
Do
may
do
just
they
try.
resell somebody else's barrel? What do they do?
They take a blank and actually turn it down. So I talked to them today. So the one that they currently have is a carbine length gas tube. If I wanted, he could mill one down and make it into a mid length for me for a 16-inch barrel. So it's really up to me. And I got to kind of figure that out because that'll actually set the stage for the gas block, which I want to get an adjustable gas block and set me up for the other things I want to buy.
You're going to have enough space in there between the barrel and the handguard?
I believe so, because the rail that I have is going to cover the entire barrel. The only thing that's going to stick out on a 16-inch barrel is just going to be the flash suppressor.
All right, good. So if you're going to do, especially if you do a muzzle brake, I think I like muzzle brakes on ARs. You got to have the muzzle brake sticking out. People will actually split and blow their handguards apart if they try and hide a muzzle brake underneath the handguard.
Yeah, I think we put it all together on one to take a look at it, and I think the barrel sticks out maybe a quarter to a half inch.
That's kind of cool. I kind of like that look. I don't know. I think it looks neat like that way.
I do. I think it's going to look really neat, and it's super lightweight. Like I said, a buddy of mine already put one together, and that's the one that we got to run out Sunday. I got invited to go shooting with Kyle Kirby on Saturday, but wasn't able to do it because of Thanksgiving stuff with Twyla's family.
You met up with that goofy guy?
No, not yet. He's invited me a couple times, and we haven't been able to hook up yet. But Sunday morning we ran out, and I got to try the Trigger Tech AR trigger.
Oh yeah, the adjustable one.
Yes.
So what do you think about it?
I really liked it. I liked it a lot. I mean, it was fast, really fast, and super smooth, super light. Would I say that I like it so much better than the Geisley trigger that I would switch? No. But
well,
I like
if you
it.
want a fast trigger, like by fast, I think you're meaning the reset from shot to shot fast.
Yes.
I bet the Trigger Tech has it. I mean, that's the way to go. Or at least you'd want to do one of the Geisley triggers that are made for speed, like one of the 3-gun triggers or stuff like that. So the Geisley triggers I like are the 2-stage triggers, which I think are better for precision shots.
Right.
But that 2-stage is not as fast. You have 2 stages to go through. It's not as quick back and forth. So yeah, if you want so is this going to be more of an assaulter, quote unquote, style gun versus a precision rifle?
Yes, it's going to be more of an assaulter plink around play gun.
So the barrel's coming from Lake Tactical, and they're chambering it. And you mentioned a blank. For people that are listening, if you don't know, a blank, it refers to a barrel that's made from a manufacturer that has its bore already drilled out, and then it's also been rifled, but it doesn't have a chamber. So sometimes blanks, you can get them unturned, so the outside is just a giant thick piece of steel, and you have to actually lathe down the outside of the profile you want. Or sometimes you can get a turned blank to the profile that you want, even with a gas hole already drilled out for it on an AR barrel. And then you have to chamber it yourself. And an AR, you don't set the headspace while it's installed to the gun. The headspace is actually set when the extension is put on. So that's what we'd call a star chamber on an AR-15. Right. So if your Lake Tactical is going to do it, they get that blank, it's rifled, it's a piece of steel, and then they get to chamber it in whatever they want, and then get that barrel extension, is what it's called, screwed on and headspace right for you. So what specific chambering are you going with?
It'll be a 5.56.
Okay, that's smart, because then you can shoot both the 5.56 and the 2.23.
Right.
That's cool. And then did you say what twist rate you're going with already?
I'm going to go with a 1 and 9 because it's going to be strictly 55 grain full metal jacket. 1
I guess
8,
that's okay.
Like I said, I'm still shopping barrels. I'm leaning towards them for this.
Man, Remington, believe it or not, makes a bolt action 223 and 1 and 9. That just makes me want to pull my hair out. I don't know why they do that, but it shoots. For some reason, that particular gun in 1 and 9 shoots the heavy bullets just fine. So I guess it goes back to the whole stop sweating the small stuff and just get a gun and shoot it. But all right, yeah, 1 and 9. I know what bullets you're gonna be shooting out of that thing.
Yeah, just cheap full metal jacket ammos.
Yeah, but even if you want, you can do those, harder soft points to be fine.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Right. I think Snakebite's asking on the YouTube chat, how come you didn't go with I think he's asking the Wildy chamber. Probably because Lake Tactical just may not offer it. They may offer it in 5.56. Is that right, Jason?
Yeah, that's the only one that I saw today. They were kind of busy, so we didn't really get into it too much. And I told him I'm not even interested and buying the rest of my components till I see how this Cerakote thing goes. I mean, it could be a disaster for
Well,
all I know.
if it works, you do good stuff. I mean, so the longbow I have is actually a Jason Cleckner original longbow. So Jason likes to tinker around with things, and he doesn't, half-ass things. So I'm sure it's going to be okay. It may not be my style. You might do some pink and purple tiger stripe, but I know you're going to do it well, or you wouldn't do it at all. So maybe it'll turn into a business. Maybe this podcast will be the start of your Cerakote business. Just everyone will send you Cerakote stuff. That'd be nice.
That'd be awesome. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Like I said, I'm going to do a 2-color Cerakote on this. I ordered gunmetal gray, and then I ordered graphite black.
Okay, so you know the gunmetal gray is like silver, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm warning everybody. I had a gun done for me by an awesome friend of mine. He did an amazing job. And I thought gunmetal gray, that sounds like gray to me. And he got the gun done and he sent me a picture. I'm like, wow, that looks silver. Like, I'm talking metallic silver. He's like, that's what you wanted. And maybe it's just the picture. I'm like, I don't know. I finally saw it in person and it's, I don't know why they call it gunmetal gray, but I think it might look good contrasted with the charcoal black. That'll look cool.
Yeah. So I'm going to attempt to do the gray, and then I want to not do stripes, but almost kind of like a smoke, just a light airbrush of the black stripes where it almost looks like smoke rolling up through it is the plan. So we'll see how it goes.
Good news about Cerakote is you can sandblast it off and do it again.
That's right.
So that'll be cool. I'll be interested. Matter of fact, I hope people here are interested too, but you have to share your progress, even if it's embarrassing, so we can learn from you. Because I think there's a little bit of a trick to getting, one coat of Cerakote on and then having it cured enough to get the second coat on, but not all the way, things like that, right?
Yeah, so from what I've learned, you have to basically spray it on. Well, first you sandblast it, you acetone it, get all the oils off of it, dry it, and then when you start the actual Cerakote process, since I'm doing an oven bake and not an air dry, you have to basically let it dry for a little bit, and then instead of baking it at full temp, you bake it at a much lower temp for only like 5 to 10 minutes, just enough to put a crust on it. And then you paint over it after it cools down, and then you do the final bake.
All right. Well, I'm excited to see how it goes.
Yeah, me too.
So real quick on the TriggerTech trigger, I know I jumped off track, but yeah, for a fast trigger, those drop-in packs are awesome. You guys know I love TriggerTech triggers. I've tried their AR triggers and they're not for me. That's not saying they're not great. I prefer the Geisley 2-stage triggers for ARs for me, but for your purpose, for just a blasting gun, man, I might be tempted myself to go with the TriggerTech, honestly, Jason, just because you want a quick shooting trigger. You don't want to have to worry about taking up slack and getting a crisp shot. You just want to pick it up and rattle off a couple shots real quick. TriggerTech might be it for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was really nice, but I took out my AAC and kind of shot them side by side. And I got to say, I like the 2-stage also. When I'm actually picking off different targets and bouncing left or right, I like taking that slack out and almost holding it there because it's not enough to fire it.
Yep, I like to pick it up and decide it's time to shoot, and then I stay in shooting mode and just running to reset and firing, and then I get out of shooting mode, if that makes sense.
Right. Whereas with the TriggerTech trigger, I mean, once you were on it, it's pretty much firing. I mean, it's pretty light.
Yeah. So another good thing about the TriggerTechs and the drop-in packs is you don't have to worry about the holes on the receivers. I mean, any good receiver is going to have the holes in the right position, but the Geisleys rely on the fact that the holes in your receiver are in the proper position. The TriggerTech triggers a pack. So as long as you can get the pins in to get the pack in, all the components and all the nuances and timing of the trigger are already preset from the factory. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, but the Geisley ones come with that cardboard insert, so it's really easy. It's not like you're really fighting anything.
No, I mean, just if the holes on your receiver were too far apart, I could just put in one pin and the TriggerTech will work. Where the Geisleys wouldn't. That's all I mean. Yeah.
Right.
So cool, man. Cool. So anything else new? Any other shooting going on?
No. That was all I was able to do. I snuck out for probably 20 minutes Sunday. Tried those 2 different triggers. Realized I'm getting low on ammo, so they got good deals going for Black Friday. So I'm gonna.
Heck yeah, they do.
1,000
I've seen
rounds.
a lot of good online deals. Ammunition Depot, Ammo Man, a lot of those people have good deals going on right now. So you guys, 1 gun and 1,000 rounds is better than 1,000 guns in 1 round. Just
Yep.
remember that.
And with the rebates and stuff, I mean, you can get 1,000 rounds of, you know, 223 or 556 full metal jackets for $250.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
almost 10 years ago pricing.
yeah, it's awesome. So that's my Black Friday that's going to happen, or Cyber Mondays. I'm going to be buying gun stuff.
Awesome. So I have a bunch of junk ammo, and now that I reload, and I hope you get into it someday too, Jason, not for the plinking necessarily, but reloading. What's nice is you can actually have ammo for storage and then just reload as you need. And if you ever run out, you have a surplus behind it. It's kind of neat to get picky on what ammo you're going to take to the range.
Right.
So shield red dot update, somebody asks. Not great. I don't know how to pronounce your name. JTOMMR. J Tomer is what I'll say for the comments. They asked about the shield red dot site. So it's working okay for me. I'm seeing a little bit of a flicker in the dot, and it's only my eye when I move it quickly. So if you look through a less expensive red dot, you'll see it. I don't see it at aim points or anything like that, but I do see. Oh, excuse me. Wow. Sorry, everybody. I do see a flicker or like a refresh rate on the LED sometimes. So I'm kind of seeing that with the shield. But a buddy of mine that I trust a lot has a shield, and he hasn't put many rounds through his yet, and it already has a battery contact issue. So the sight looks completely dead, and then he shakes the gun, and then the sight comes back. So it's as if the battery was sliding enough that the contacts of the battery weren't either strong enough and they've bent out of the way, or maybe they've broken. So mine still runs, but I definitely have some doubts on the durability of them. So I'll keep running mine and see if he just got a lemon. But of the two shields I know of in the wild, one's gone down. So sad to say, I had high hopes for it, and I'm still going to keep trying it. But I guess it goes to say that if you're going to put a red dot on your gun, you should have iron sights as a backup anyway. So, we'll see. Snakebite asks, so Ryan, for the Mark 12, what did I aim with for 0 at 100 meters? I don't understand your question. I put it on 0. I don't know. I shot and I moved the scope until the impacts of the bullets met to where I wanted to hit. And then I called that 0, and I slipped the scales to where they said 0 at 100 meters. I think you might be asking, Snakebite, maybe because a lot of guys with AR-15s will do like a 15 or a 20 or a 25 or a 50-yard 0. But I used, what do I aim with? Like magnified optic, like which optic? Okay, never mind. I see what you're saying. I used a Leupold Mark IV 2.5 to 8 power on my Mark 12 in the military. And for those that don't know, that's the one gun I wish I didn't have to give back. Even though I'm not a huge AR guy, that thing was amazing. Aimpoint needs to make a pistol red dot. Yes, Kevin, maybe they do. That'd be kind of cool feature. So I owe Jason's trying to buy a Glock from me. We got his daughter encouraged to buy a Glock too. I have a few of them actually sitting in inventory, a few Gen 3s, because I kind of like the Gen 3s. So you know what, guys? I'll tell you what, I might throw them up on the website and just throw them out at a huge discount. I can't advertise it super cheap because of minimum advertised pricing issues, but maybe next podcast. I'll tell you what, next podcast I'll throw out a coupon code and I'll throw a couple of Glocks up for like my price. Because then if you use the coupon code, you can get them. If you're interested, snag them. If you're not, don't worry about it. So Snake might ask for closer distances. Was I running offset 45-degree irons? No, man, I'm kind of old school. I'm already starting to feel old now. Right? I got out of the military in 2003. I'm not even sure they had offset 45-degree irons in 2003. I had iron sights as a backup, and my scope on the Mark 12 was a quick detach scope, which is actually drove me nuts because never did I or anybody else ever have to get their scope off quickly. I get that maybe you'd have a need someday. I'm just saying I never had to have it done. And they used the ARMS mounts, the Swan ARMS brand, and those things drive me nuts. They have a cool little lever lock that allows for the quick detach on the rail. But have you ever seen those mounts, Jason?
No.
So they have a nice throw lever that clamps down and has a nice repeatable, lock on the rail. And they advertise how great it is for repeatability because it locks down consistently every time. It's just a lever that folds flat against the AR-15 and locks onto the rail. But the base that had the part that grabbed onto the Picatinny rail and the little lever was not the same piece as the bottom half of the ring, like most scope rings are. It was its own piece, and it had like a dovetail cut in it. And then the bottom half of the ring was dovetailed into the bottom of the ring, and it was held in place by a freaking roll pin. A roll pin. And then the top half of the ring went on. It was great, and it was solid as long as it was solid. But I'm not kidding. Maybe a handful of times I've seen those things on other people's rifles and mine come completely loose. You could grab the scope and wiggle it because the roll pin would get flexed, and pretty soon the dovetailed pieces would move, and you'd literally have the rings moving in the base. Those rings are junk, and I can't believe they did it. Yeah, snakebite when quad rails were cool. You're right. That's when we had the Knights Armament quad rails on all of our ARs, and those were like the coolest thing ever. And the Army paid as much for those quad rails as they did for the whole AR-15. It was insane that we did that. But yeah, quad rails used to be cool back then. So anyway, yeah, so those are the rings I used, the scope I used. Underneath that scope, it was mounted really high, too high. We had flip-up iron sights, and the iron sights were kind of cool, is that the rear sight, when it flipped up, it had a barrel adjustment. So you could rotate around the barrel to the distance you wanted to shoot. So you could zero the iron sights and then click them up to a 4 for 400 yards, and it would actually adjust the rear sight for you so that you could have elevation doped into your iron sights. It was actually, I mean, it's going to get close enough, but if you're using iron sights at 400 or 500 yards, do you really care? You know, stuff like that. Michael asked, are the 700P and the 5R still trusted Remingtons? Yes. But even when, back when I first got it, before I even was an officer of the company for Remington, I still told people they're awesome, but you might get one that's a lemon. So even back then, even when I was in the military, we knew that you could get an amazing 700P, you know, with a 5R barrel, or you could get one that unexplainably wouldn't shoot. Now, I've had people claim that they've even seen Remingtons come off the line with smooth barrels with no rifling in them. I have no idea if that's true. I've never seen that. But yeah, the quality control has always been a problem, and as far as I'm concerned, it's gotten worse and worse and worse. That doesn't mean they don't make a great product. It's a good product, but you just got to be careful. I'd still be willing to gamble on it, because if you got a bad one, you can just send it back and they'd fix it for you. I mean, you got to test it and make sure first. But the 700P and the 5R are still strong contenders. It's a good platform, and you can customize it and do whatever you want to it. First thing you're going to want to do, though, is change the trigger. You know, and at least those have good stocks on them already. So Snakebite asked me if I had to make a rapid engagement from 50 yards, I'd use my knife hand. That's what I'd use, Snakebite, 50 yards away. Well, first off, I hope you read my book, Snakebite, because in my book, I say you always walk around with your scope on the lowest power. Never, never, never walk with your scope on the highest power. So if it's on the lowest power, I was at 2.5 power. So 2.5 power is less than an ACOG, and some people see the ACOG as a perfectly suitable battle rifle scope. So at 2.5 power, I can easily pick up the rifle and shoot quickly. That's what I used. So that's just one of the many reasons I say that. So yeah, I need to get a picture of those rings, man. They just, the gun was awesome, but those rings drove me nuts.
Well, and I can understand. I mean, look at the issues I had with the rings I was using for my 700. Had that little nut that tightened on the side, and it felt like I had to keep stretching it each day a little bit until it finally locked in. I was getting nervous about that.
Yeah, but you kind of knowingly bought junk rings.
They were Vortex rings.
No, they weren't. Were they?
Yeah.
I thought you bought I think it must have been the El Cheapo deal then, when you were trying to get the cheapest thing going.
Oh yeah, the El Cheapo. I bought the cheapest little red dot thing I could buy.
Gotcha. I mean, yeah, so did I. So I'm not saying I cheated, but somewhere after I tested it, the whole switch on my red dot that turned it on fell out and was hanging by wires. Now the red dot still turned on and off, but that's how cheap it was. It was ridiculous. Red Leg is asking about the TPS rings. I have no idea what TPS rings are, man. I don't know. I'm a big believer that you buy a good optic, good rings, and a good base. You buy good rings, you don't need to lap them. You don't need to do anything. I'm sure you can, but again, how about this, guys? If you trust me as a long-range shooting source of information, I have never lapped any rings I've ever owned. Not saying that's what you should do, but I haven't done it, so it's not necessarily a need. So have you seen, Jason, the news about the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts and how girls are now in the Boy Scouts?
I heard a little bit about it, yes. I didn't read the whole article, but...
I bring it up because a Ranger buddy of mine, Serious dude. I mean, awesome dude. Used to be in the honor guard and then went back to the honor guard. You know, like the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and stuff like that. They have to have like certain measurements for the honor guard. His waist is like this big, and his shoulders have to be like this wide. It's crazy, but it's seriously cool, dude. And he made a really cool post today on Facebook, and I'm bringing it up because it comes into teaching and outdoor stuff. Is I used to volunteer to teach the Boy Scout and the Girl Scout merit badges when I used to teach rock climbing in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
So at the local gym I would teach at, where I actually met my wife, I would volunteer to teach those classes. I thought it was a cool thing to do, and I would teach the Boy Scouts merit. And I had to like get approved through the system to be able to sign their cards to the merit badge. And the Boy Scouts had to learn about various knots. They had to learn about different styles and techniques of rock climbing. They had to learn about different pieces of gear and how it worked. They had to learn about anchors. They had to go out and demonstrate their ability to climb a couple routes, easy routes, but still they had to demonstrate their ability to actually complete it. And then they had to learn how to rappel and then rappel twice. So that's a lot for some of these younger boys to learn how to do. Oh, and they had to demonstrate the knots. They had to demonstrate like 4 or 5 knots to me. They had to walk up, and I had them stand in a line with the practice ropes and demonstrate how to tie these knots that they just learned. Okay. That's what they had to do to get their merit badge. Now, the girls, their standards, which I had to teach to, were they had to learn the cost of rock climbing equipment. So I kid you not, they were having me prep the girls for shopping to talk to them about how much things cost. Okay. It was specifically in there. Cover the cost of different pieces of rock climbing equipment. And then I had to leave them for a half hour of scrapbooking where we had a bunch of rock climbing magazines, and they were to take a half hour and cut pictures out of the magazines and make a little like scrapbook like page collage of rock climbing. Okay. And then they had to attempt to climb. And then they had to do a obstacle course, which had them jumping over a series of cones and then jumping up and like touching a rope dangling down. And it drove me nuts because that's before I had kids. And I already knew that if I ever had a daughter, she was going to be in the Boy Scouts, not the Girl Scouts. Because they actually had to be held to a standard and do something and accomplish something and learn something, and the girls didn't. It drove me nuts. And so my buddy had posted today, he's like, hey, I don't know if this is going to be popular or not, but I think it's great the girls are going to be in the Boy Scouts. Maybe they should just call it scouting, because the Girl Scouts, they sell cookies and yada, yada, yada. And I chimed in. I made a comment back. I'm like, yes. I don't know. Do you have any experience or thoughts or opinions on that?
No, I never did get into the Boy Scouts, which is amazing because most of our family was into it. But that was not
Who was
something
into
I
it in
ever
our
did.
family?
Oh, our grandfather was an Eagle Scout. Terry Jr. made it to an Eagle Scout.
I never knew our grandpa was an Eagle Scout.
Oh, yeah, they get to it.
I knew, yeah, T2 was all about it. And he got into it as a scout leader a lot, with his family. But I mean, yeah, you, me, Jared, Todd, no one did scouting. Our dads never did.
No, we did our Boy Scouts on our summer camping trips and archery shoots in the woods.
I think being an Eagle Scout is awesome. I'm not taking away from anybody for Eagle Scouting or Boy Scouting or anything. It's amazing. I want my kids to do it. I'm looking for a chance to like volunteer and help out with it. I think it'd be fun. But guys, I'm sorry that I would not change the Cleckner Outdoors experience in lieu of Boy Scouts.
No, never.
We were blowing stuff up. We were playing ditch 'em at night and Terry up in a tree, jumping out in the middle of the night, making sounds like a predator. And Terry was making, literally getting into homemade knife making, and you're making bows. And
oh yeah. And I mean, think about it. How many people let their kids just take off into the woods in the middle of the night with just flashlights running around? I mean,
guys, we would go far, and we're talking woods. So now that I live out in Nashville, the woods here aren't the woods. I mean, in Arizona, it's like 2/3 of the state is federal land. Like you could just go anywhere you want. So we're talking miles from anybody else. We would go out in the pitch black in the middle of the trees in the woods. Yeah. And just hide up in trees and jump out and try and scare the snot out of each other. That was awesome.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, but
I look at it now and I'm like, dude, I don't know if I'd let my kids do that.
No, I don't think I would either. I seem to remember a story of your dad picking Jared up and hanging him by his belt in the tree.
That was me.
Was that you?
Yeah.
he was mad at you for something, and he picked you up and like took the back of your belt and hung it like on the stump of a tree and made you like literally hang from the tree.
Yeah, until he was done setting up camp because I wouldn't sit still.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah,
yep.
because he was trying to set up camp and I was running around and he was tired of trying to watch me. So he snatched me and I basically hung there the entire time until he was done.
So if any of you guys want to wonder what we put up with, that's the kind of stuff we used to put up with. So did I ever tell you about qualifying in the military?
No.
All right. So if we have time, I hope we do. I have a couple stories for you that I was thinking about the other day because I know I get people writing in all the time asking for military stories. This is kind of Cleckner experience, kind of military. So for some reason, Ranger Battalion has a bunch of stupid traditions. I shouldn't call them stupid. They're actually really cool, but they just don't make sense until you're into them. Like for one is we never sang cadence. We never marched. Even when we ran every morning, you never sang cadence. You just ran to run and you were trying to go as fast as you could. But we had a bunch of drinking songs. So everywhere we drove or anything we get, in a truck or in a plane or a helicopter, if you could even hear, we were singing these, just Ranger drinking songs, which I shall not even hint at or repeat because every one of them is so appalling, especially as a parent now that we even sang them. But so Red Leg saying, you asked about qualifying. Red Leg, I want to know, how'd you know about qualifying? Was it before I brought it up? So yeah, qualifying, they would get the new guys. So first off, getting into the Ranger Battalion was hard, but it was nowhere near as hard as surviving the first year in a Ranger Battalion because you were just hazed constantly. I mean, hazed. It'd be 2:00 in the morning and you just got done polishing the hallway with the cheap linoleum stickum tiles. And you'd be on your hands and knees just polishing the entire length of the hallway down the whole barracks. And then you'd go to your room and shine your boots and do whatever, stuff that didn't make sense. And you'd barely get to sleep in the morning. And then all the, sergeants would come rolling in drunk from downtown and they'd bang on all the doors and wake you up and get you out in the hallways and just smoke the dog piss out of you all night, which would ruin the floors. And just, it was rough. Don't ever complain to me about college hazing anybody. It was bad. They would actually have a game called Medal of Honor where they would throw a pine cone, and if you were the youngest guy, you'd have to run and full out, arms to the side, swan dive on it with your chest to jump on the grenade. We did stupid stuff. Well, one of the things we'd do is they'd look over at you, especially if you were a younger guy. And we didn't call each other. So the younger guys, you weren't called private. You were just called Ranger. So Ranger so-and-so meant you didn't have rank. I'd be like, hey, Ranger Cleckner, are you qualified? You're standing out in the woods. You're seriously standing out in the woods holding your rifle in the middle of a patrol or doing something for a few days tired. You're like, Roger Sergeant. Yeah, I'm qualified. Oh, really? What are you qualified in? What are you qualified in, Ranger Cleckner? You're like, leave me alone. I don't know why you're picking on me. Shooting this gun? Oh, and they all start laughing. And he's not qualified. And they kept saying it, and you'd finally learn that they were actually saying koala, like koala bearifying, not qualifying. I'm like, oh no, he's not qualified. So-and-so, show him what qualifying is. And you run and you jump and spin and grab a tree and bear hug it upside down. So you get your arms on it and flip your legs up and wrap your legs up around it. And so you got to pick a tree about, I don't know, that big around to make it worthwhile to be able to lock your arms and hands on. And as far as I remember, the standard was 10 minutes. Maybe it was 6 minutes, but I think it was 10. And you had to bear hug and hold onto this tree upside down and not try to pass out for 10 minutes. And I'll admit, the first time I tried it, I fell off the tree. And it wasn't because I was just trying to quit, but maybe it was. It was just because it's all about a mental exercise. But you have to keep trying it, and you keep getting in trouble not doing it. And after you learn the mind over matter of being able to do it, you can do it no problem. So like when I got out and I started working at that summer camp up in northern Arizona, I was the EMT for the summer camp. It was my first job out of the military. I was teaching all the guys there how to qualify. And they all thought it was nuts. But it's actually really a fun mental exercise if you ever want to try it, especially with the kids. Is you flip up upside down, just hold on to it, and you just got to go to your happy place and zone out and just bear hug the tree and not slide down the tree and not fall off. It's actually a good time. So, Red Leg's got a friend that was in the military that did it. That's pretty cool. I'm glad to see that the qualifying has gone to other branches of the military or other areas of the military. That's cool. So you need to teach Tucker qualifying when he comes back, Jason.
I will. Yeah, his stories are already hilarious. I mean, from his boot camp to other stuff that's going on. I just crack up. Yeah, they're hilarious.
Now, I may or may not have qualified naked before. I won't confirm that. But I think it was probably worse for the people watching me do it than me doing it. But it was a good time. So I was talking about something else earlier today, and another story came up. Did I ever tell you about? Well, first I told you about SOTIC, right? I've told you about the special operations sniper course I went to.
Yes.
Okay. So in SOTIC, the toughest part about SOTIC for me, for many people, is the stocks. I shouldn't say the toughest part. One of the toughest parts is, so you get graded on your shooting ability. So like the first 2 weeks when you have only iron sights and a sling, and you shoot out to 800, you get tested on your accuracy and your ability to shoot, your ability to spot. When you pass that, you get your scope and bipod legs. Well, you also get tested on things like a range estimation. You have five range estimation tests, and you have to get within a certain percentage of the actual distance with your naked eye, and then with actually using like a reticle or a tool to help you do it. No laser rangefinders, but you have to they'll have you all turn around, and a guy will drive out somewhere in a truck across open field and get out, and you turn back and look at him. Like, all right, how far is he? I think you had to be within like 7% with your naked eye. So you had to like just learn looking at things how far away something was. So people would fail out on that, which is crazy. You had to do sketches. There was 5 times where they would hide little things out in the woods. You had to sit there for like an hour and find like an earplug, and you had to sketch it on there. So some of that stuff, to me, I mean, that's like Vietnam era sniping. That's not modern stuff. I don't know what that really tested. But one of the things you got tested on that was really hard were the stalks. And I'm sure you've seen it in the movies where you have like the instructors there at the binoculars, and the snipers like sneaking on the instructors. You ever seen that before?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So the difference between real life and the movies is you don't have live rounds in real life. You're not shooting at the instructors with live ammunition.
Oh, so, it looks better in the movies, though.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. But you can imagine the potential issues there.
Sure.
So you have 5 stalks, and you build your ghillie suits, and you get all ready to go out there and do the stalk. And the first time, everyone does the same thing wrong. Is they start you like 1,000 yards away or 1,000 meters away, so a click away, and they'll put the instructors out there at the back of a Humvee in like their lawn chairs with 2 binoculars on tripods. So they can just sit and relax. They're sitting there drinking coffee, and who knows what's in the coffee. You're having a good time out there during the day. Well, because they have almost the entire day off, because all day we're going to be out there crawling around on our bellies, right? So the other instructors with us like a click away, and they're like, all right, guys, they're that direction, 1,000 meters, ready, set, go. And I remember the first time when they said go, I think all of us went poof and just like hit the ground. And like, okay, it's on. And we started crawling. Because you're like scared to death of being seen, right? Because if you got seen, you're done. You lost the points for it. You could fail out of SOTIC for being like seen. So you're like crawling, and you keep crawling, and you look up, you're like, oh, I don't see anything. I'll crawl over to that hill. And we would all crawl for like 100 meters on our bellies out there in Georgia. Was it Georgia? No, North Carolina. And finally, you're like getting up on your hands and knees, and finally kind of getting up on your knees, but you never got up and walk. And it took all day. It was like an 8-hour exercise to get close enough to them. And then even when you got close enough, we were getting busted because we didn't know how to, not move parallel to what they're looking at. You're told that, but you don't think about it. And we weren't thinking through it right. So the first one was a mess. And someone says, leaving the old slug trail behind in the comments. That's true. And you have this like perfect trail like through the woods. Well, after the first one, I learned real quick how to play the game. And there is a Ranger motto, and I'm sure it's other people's mottos too, but it was definitely a Ranger motto, which is, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. And if you get caught cheating, you're not trying hard enough. Okay? So let me tell you how much the Boy Scout parents loved it when I told their kids that. But it's a good motto for warfare and fighting, right? It's that you got to think of the way that somebody else wouldn't think. So they'd always try to get you to look at an objective or a mission or a project to say, well, what's the way I wouldn't think of? Well, that would be cheating. Well, great. This is warfare. Let's cheat. So after doing this first one, it was just like a smoker. I realized real quick how to play the game, because what they had you do is they gave you 2 blank rounds, and you had to get into position. And then when you were ready, and you could see the instructors, they had a target sitting up between them. And so you would aim at the target and shoot a blank round off with a big flash comes out the end of your barrel. Well, both instructors immediately turn the binoculars and come and look in your direction. Okay. And despite what the movies say, those guys out there walking around aren't trying to find you. They're actually on your side. They're not trying to make the instructors know where you're at. The instructors are using those guys, the walkers. They're using the walkers to try and locate you. So sometimes the instructors would be pretty cool as they'd starting to get close to you, and the guy on the radio looking through the binoculars would be like, all right, 10 more steps, turn right 5 steps. And the guy would turn right and he would take like a giant step like he was stepping over you, and then take a few more steps, so he'd like psych the spotters out to think that you were there. Sometimes they'd actually hook you up. But there's no way. I'm sorry, guys. In real life, there's no way you're going to hide with all those people walking around trying to find you out there in the woods. You can't hide from all directions every time and move at the same time. That's just not going to be possible. So you fire around, they look at you, and then I think they get the instructor within 5 meters of you. So if they can't find you, then they'll say, okay, walker, get within 5 meters. And then sometimes the walker, to do you a solid, would walk past you and then stop and say, okay, within 5 meters. You know what I'm saying? So it makes the instructors think you're 5 meters further. And he'd get within a 5 meter circle, and then they would just sit there and burn that area with their binoculars for a while trying to find you. And they'd be like, all right, I can't find them. Have them identify a letter. Because then now they don't believe that you can actually see them. So they'd reach down and grab out of a box small white and black letters. And they'd put them on top of the binoculars as they're looking at you to make sure you can see their head. And you'd have to look at the letter and be like, identify Tango. And you could say it out loud because the walker's 5 meters away. And he'd say, shooter identifies Tango. And they go, oh, all right, he can see us. So make sure you're not just completely hiding behind the ground, right? And they go, all right, we'll have him take a second shot. And then they'll have him take a second shot, which they're going to see you because there's a ball of fire from a blank round coming out of a gun, which I don't know what that proves, because if you're a bad guy, you're going to be getting smacked in the face with a bullet. So who cares if you can see the flash coming out? So Abby says, you cheat at combat arms competitions and get caught, you get disqualified and cannot compete for the rest of your life of your career. Integrity first, Air Force. You know, Abby, I support all branches of the military and the Air Force. So that's awesome. No, not integrity first, Abby. Integrity first when it comes to your peers and your chain of command, but not integrity first when it comes to the enemy. Forget that. So that's the whole point here, is that not cheating doesn't mean, Abby, that you're cheating for your superiors or against your peers. It means not cheating that, you're trying to get away from the instructors. Now Hurricane's coming in. Stalks aren't a competition. They're a training exercise to keep you from getting killed. You're not competing with the guys next to you. That's true, Hurricane. That's true. But you're trying to stay on the course. So, wow, I thought that you guys would like this story. It's going to get worse, especially where I do the cheating. So apparently I'm already getting some flack for you guys not liking the cheating, but maybe that's what'll make this controversial enough. I think it's funny. So I learned how to play the game real quick, and so did a couple of us. And I'm like, you know what? Those instructors are not going to sit there for 8 hours waiting for us to show up. They're going to be smoking and joking, or even show up hours later. Right? They're not going to be sitting there with binoculars for 8 hours staring at the woods. So the second time we went to go out there and do the exercise, when they said go, I took off on a dead sprint. And I think everyone looked at me like, what the hell is that ranger doing? I'm not kidding, Jason. I mean, full leg stride, dead sprint towards the guys. And I could even hear some of the instructors back there on the radios like, oh shit, here he comes. Like they knew that I was breaking the rules. Well, I take that back. There were no rules that said I couldn't run. I just couldn't be found. So I'm seriously sprinting all the way there. And at least one of the times, I don't remember which one it was, but one of the next 4 stalks I had to do, I actually was running and I looked out of the corner of my eye and I saw the truck, the Humvee, sitting out in the middle of the woods. I was like, oh, I almost ran past the guys, like right on the open. They're standing there literally drinking coffee as I almost ran past them. So I had to turn around and run back the other way to get back. But each time I would run as fast as I possibly could and get within 100 meters and then just dive down to the ground and get hidden. And then I would load my blank round, get on the gun, and then just fall asleep. I would get a 2 or 3 hour nap out of it because it'd take all the rest of the guys 2 or 3 hours to get back up to where I was. And I learned that as soon as the blank round went off, the instructors would immediately look where it got fired, right? So the best time to shoot and not get caught was right after somebody else shot. So I'd put my finger on the trigger and just be like, just snoring out there in the woods. And then as soon as somebody shot and woke me up, I'd be like, huh? And shoot my gun right after theirs. So the instructors would look at the first guy shooting, and then I'd go off, so they'd have no clue, and they'd be confused on who to do it. Well, so even better is you learn to tree stack when you're hiding. And this applies to buildings or anything else. Is you never hide at the base of a tree. You never hide at the base of a corner of a building, because that's where everybody looks. So Jason, be honest, if you were going to look for a sniper in the woods, wouldn't you probably look at the base of each tree?
Oh
in
yeah.
the base of all the bushes? Right. So I hide about 10 feet up the tree. I don't climb the tree. I just hide in the distance way behind the tree. So to you, I appear about 10 feet up the side of the tree. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I sometimes would lay in the middle of a dirt road, ghillie suit looking like a pile of burlap, not hidden with anything for camouflage, but I'd line a couple trees up. It's called tree stacking. And I'd line a couple trees up at an angle to where I could only see a 2-inch sliver between those trees. And I'd get so far behind the trees that I would appear about 10 feet up the tree. Guess where nobody looks for a sniper? 10 feet up a tree. So
Right.
they would never find me. Okay, so one, that's the thing they would teach you. It's called tree stacking, and the other one's called standoff. You always get behind something. You know, if you're hiding by a house in the middle of nowhere, the best place to hide for a sniper in the hide site is about 10 yards to the side of the house. Not in the house, because that's where everyone's going to be looking, right? But 10 yards to the side in a bush, no one's going to look for it. So I would tree stack, and I'd get back there. Stephen Woods, how'd you know about the two kids and the donkey? I think I'm forgetting all the names. I might not share that one here, but that sounds bad. But so I'd tree stack, which is what they teach you. And that's also where I learned that the ghillie suit was useless. I think my last 3 stalks, I only brought my ghillie hat. I didn't even bring the full ghillie suit. Everybody else would bring these huge Chewbacca suits thinking they're going to be hidden. And they would look at me and be like, what the hell are you doing? You're not bringing your ghillie suit? I'm like, nope, don't need it. Again, the thing would start. Stupid ranger takes off running towards the objective. I'd tree stack. I just put the hat on. I got a big enough head. My head could hide my little body. So I would put this ghillie hat on and get my body behind it and realize they're not seeing the rest of my body anyway. Well, so Jason, so picture the trees being stacked, right? So there's like only a 2-inch gap.
Right.
And again, I'm 30 yards behind the closest tree to me, laying maybe in the open completely. Well, all I would do is I would roll to the left and hide completely behind one of the trees. So when I shot, they would never see the gun go off. Well, by the time the instructor gets out near me to try and see me, they would stare and stare and stare. They would never find me because I was literally behind a tree 10 feet up, you know, their view. And finally, they'd get mad. They're like, what? There's no way he's there. Like, get within 5 yards. You're within 5 yards? I can't see him at all. That's it. Have him identify. Well, I learned on that first stalk that when they say have him identify, for the people that are watching YouTube, I'm going to show you what they do. They'd say, have him identify. They'd bend all the way down to the ground to pick up a letter. So I knew they came off binoculars. So whenever I heard on the radio, have them identify, I'd go, I'd roll back out to where I could see him again. And the second they push the letter to the scope, I'd be like, oh, Romeo. And the walker go, he identifies Romeo. They'd be like, dang it. How did he do that? Well, they'd bend back down to the ground and put the letter back in the box, and I'd roll back behind the tree. So they get back on the binoculars to actually look. They could never find me again. And I'd have them go, all right, we'll have them take a second shot. I'd be shooting into the back of a tree 20 yards in front of me. And I'd actually hear over the radio, damn it, we didn't even see that. Where the hell is he? And so by the time the walker walks over to me and puts his finger down on my hat, I had slowly, like gently rolled back out into the open so they could see me. So there's the story for everybody about how to cheat, how to stalk, and how I figured it out. But I mean, I did that for the last few, but there was one time I got stuck out in the open. And I think it might have been the time I saw the truck and I had to go back and I had to lay in some open grass. And his name was Ed, and he had been was in the military for 20 something years, and he had been out of the military, retired longer than he had been in. Okay. But he was a sniper god. And like in Vietnam, he used to carry like a carton of cigarettes with him instead of water to be out there as a sniper. And he would just sit back on the Humvee drinking coffee all day while we're shooting, making the crudest jokes you can imagine. And, you know, talking crap to all of us shooters. But he was really, really good at coaching and really good at shooting. And he used to try and take us on all the time as bets. And one time he was out there spotting, and I didn't know he was one of the ones spotting. Or I never would have picked him, because the walker will sometimes say, okay, shooter, who are you going for, driver or passenger side? You know, to see which one's using the letter, because you may not be able to see them both. And if I would have known that it was Ed, I never would have picked it. I said, driver's side. I'm like, okay. Shooter's going for the driver's side, vehicle. The driver, immediately the voice come over, and I hear Ed's voice. It's just very distinct old man voice. Just kind of obnoxious. Sorry, Ed, if you're listening. You taught me a lot. I appreciate it, but you were an ass to me, so fair game. So he gets on the radio. He's like, 3 feet to your left, 1 more foot, one step forward, and he'd bring the guy's finger down, and he actually walked the walker's finger down with inches over left and right, and he had him grab a piece of grass from my hat, on my ghillie hat. And he said, "Sniper at your feet." And the instructor goes, "Yeah, exactly right. How could you tell?" And I stood up. So it's the one stock I got busted on. He had said that he could tell the grass wasn't blowing the same way as the rest of the grass. Because what I had done is I had taken the dead grass and I pulled up a clump of it and I put it in my hat, but I put the dead side up. So the bottom of the grass up. So it was stiffer than the rest. And he could tell the difference of the two pieces of grass blowing. So Hydrolife, I need more scotch so I can tell these jokes. I don't have any scotch tonight, Hydrolife, believe it or not. Just maybe a little bit of eggnog, but no scotch. So I've just been doing this because you guys have been begging for stories like this forever. And so here you go. And I already got complaints about cheating. So anyway, good times, good times.
Well, we probably learned most of that from your dad. I mean, even as kids, he was constantly cheating, no matter what we did.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you do.
Was he the one? He was the one that scared us as the bear, right?
Yeah, he's the one that I don't know where he got that coat, but it was some big fuzzy hairy coat, man, in the middle of the woods in the dark with it draped over him and the way he was running. I mean, I knew it was a bear. And when we all scattered, poor Jared, we left him there.
So you say it was Jared. He says it was one of my friends.
Nope, it was Jared. Jared.
I remember somebody stood there running in place. I distinctly remember knees moving. Do you agree?
Yep. Oh, that was Jared's MO. I mean, when he was little, that didn't happen just then. I mean, it happened. He got ran over by one of our horses when we were young because he was running in place but wasn't going anywhere. Horse ran him over. Happened again when my dad scared him in the house. I mean, he used to just run in place. That's how I know it was him for sure.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah. So my dad. So we were playing that. What do we call it? We call it ditch 'em. What do we call it?
We never really had a name for it. We just would take off into the woods and then go looking for either Terry or me, or we take turns. Like I said, I mean, your poor buddy Chip. I often joke that he's never been back to the woods ever again.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was Chip. But either way, yeah. So we were out there playing it where we would literally, we'd have the bigger cousins, which was you and Terry at the time, would jump out of trees at us and pretend to slit our throats or something.
Oh yeah,
we're doing
as bury ourselves.
Find you. Yeah, bury yourselves in the leaves and things like that. Yeah, my dad goes crawling out there. He like ambushed us. He circled around and back ended us and came out there with a big jack at the middle of the night. And I don't know, guys, when you're that late at night in the dark and you're already scared yourself all up, it looked like a bear when he's out there growling and going around. And oh, poor Jared, if that was.
It was Jared.
It was every Cleckner for themselves. And Jared, I remember somebody pumping their arms and knees moving up or down and staying completely still as my dad on all fours was charging like a bear, like going, oh my God.
Yeah, I remember I jumped behind a fallen tree and was looking over and watching Jared run in place. And I remember thinking to myself, there he goes. He's dead.
Well, he was a good brother. He was a good brother.
Yeah. Goodbye, Jared.
I actually ended up with Aunt Carol on that one. Our aunt was out there with us, and we went and ran because I think I was probably by far the littlest one out there, for everybody at the time, right? Or me and Chip at least. So me and my friend, and we ran and dove behind a log, and I thought the same thing. I wasn't watching once I got behind the log. My face was down in the leaves, and there's at least a part of me that thought, well, here's how it ends. Yeah.
I remember when your dad actually hit him. I mean, I actually jumped in place and was like, oh God, I got him.
Did he take him down? I don't remember that.
Oh yeah. Grabbed him and took him down to the ground.
Oh, well, I'm sorry everybody that's listening to this. You guys have been asking for stories, and so I actually had those two stories, like the SOTIC story written down. I got a bunch more from that actually too, including how I got in trouble. Maybe I'll save that for another time. It was like the first week in SOTIC, and I was actually standing at parade rest getting dressed down by the NCOIC, the non-commissioned officer in charge, for being a bad example, and I just slept in. And anyway, I'll tell the story later. And I had like extra duty at the beginning and everything. It was a mess, but anyway, it all worked out. So that's funny, man. I'll still always love some of those stories. So you guys wanted them. If you don't want the stories, you want more topics, write in. You guys have been being great, except for the past few weeks has died down. I guess I should be upset at that. But if you have specific questions, especially if they're more general on a topic, so it's something that Jason and I can cover, that helps. I don't mind these small questions about what scope do I recommend for this or that, but bigger topics are things that we can cover better. If you guys have any issues with what's going on with, of course, all the myriad things I'm doing, Rocket FFL, Rocket CCW, the book, stuff like that, let me know. Jason, speaking of which, have you done your Rocket FFL homework?
So I am basically stuck at the application point and right in the process of doing my LLC. And as soon as that gets done, I'm going to fill out the application. And that is actually one of the main reasons I'm playing with this whole cerakote thing is I want to manufacture AR-15s. That's my goal. That's my goal for the FFL, is to be able to manufacture. So while I'm in this process, I'm tinkering around with some things I might be able to do myself or some changes I might be able to do to kind of make it kind of more of my own.
Okay, well, cool, man. We look forward to seeing how your cerakote process goes, and we might have to write up something for people to follow. Seriously, like a long write up on step 1 through 10 of what you need to get and the lessons you learned and stuff like that. So I think it's awesome, man. The questions are popping in now, but they're all simple quick questions. So I'll try and answer them in the chat before the chat goes away. I appreciate everyone tuning in. And Jason, I said at the beginning, man, and I mean it. I appreciate you being here. You've been so great on this podcast. I know that people miss you if there's ever a time that we can't do it. So thanks again, man.
Oh, my pleasure, man. It's a blast. I really enjoy it.
All right. And everyone, if you want to support the podcast, take the courses, tell friends about it so that we can grow the community. And thanks for tuning in and taking part of the chat. Sorry that we can't keep up to speed now. We got what we asked for. We got y'all participating, and now we can't get to everything. But I'll try. Thanks again, everybody. Take care.
Take care, everybody.